Flash episode 22, Rogue Air. Now, the first thing I gotta ask you guys is, were you surprised that this episode had nothing to do with the trailer that they kept giving us for I think they showed it to us for the past 2 weeks, really, that this episode was gonna be the big fight episode against the Reverse Flash, which I thought they would definitely save for the finale, but I figured, well, they're doing it in this episode, and they did, and we do still have something else, but this entire episode was the ultimate cock tease, because it was here's this trailer that we get that shows Flash, the Arrow, and Firestorm all fighting against the Reverse Flash, and then we get this actual episode, and really it's just about the Rogues. That's all it's about. It's setting up the Rogues as a full-on team, which I thought was pretty cool. But I would have liked it if they just gave us a trailer this is what's going to be in this episode, instead of kind of puffing it up. I mean, they did the ultimate version of the TV trailer thing where they say this is what's about to happen, and it was really the last 5 minutes, which was it was still a cool fight. It was just disappointing that they made it seem like that was the whole episode, because even if that fight scene with the three of them against the Reverse Flash was only at the very end, it still could have easily been an episode about Barry still struggling to fight the Reverse Flash, because that was still really fun to watch that happen, where he was constantly trying to go against him, and this episode had nothing to do with that. It was he starts the accelerator, and all that leads to is Barry going to Captain Cold and asking him for help, which I love the fact that they played Foreigner's Cold as Ice, because that's just really silly and funny. I also like that song a lot. But, it was just really cool, and we got to see his sister. Initially, I thought it was just Captain Cold, and I was like, well, that kind of sucks. They couldn't get the actors in time, and they still couldn't get Dominic Purcell, who's Heatwave, or I believe that's his name. So it sucked that we didn't get to see him in this episode, because it does seem really weird that it was only Snart and his sister. But it was still cool to see both of them. At least it was both of them, and it wasn't just Captain Cold. So we at least got 2 out of the 3 members that we knew. And it was still a good episode. I still definitely enjoyed it. And I thought, Captain Cold kind of tricking them at the end, that was really messed up. And he does that just so he can kind of start up the Rogues and stuff. He's like, well, they owe me one now, so he's gonna have the Rogues in the future with actual supervillains on it, just like it is in the comics. So that should be pretty interesting. I think it'll be pretty cool to see how that stuff plays out. He still has his promise to not attack the city and all that stuff, but he did mention at the end of this episode he is a liar and a criminal, so maybe he was just waiting until he was able to build up the team and really take everyone on. That way the Flash, as one person, couldn't take him out, even with 2 or 3 people. It's well, now we have about 5 or 6 people, and some of those people have superpowers too, so it should be fun to see him come back in the next season. But it was kind of messed up what he did. He tricked them. I did love the fact that he took out the one guy, and they're like, why'd you kill him? And he was like, he owed me money. And it was just oh, yeah, that makes sense. And there's talking about how they're in crime families, and how they all know each other, just the criminal underground. But it was pretty cool. I thought it was kind of funny. We pretty much got to see everyone, and we saw kind of how the different characters acted, because mostly everyone attacked them. But the woman, Shauna, she took off. She was like, I'm out of here. And she just left. She wasn't that hardcore criminal type. So she took off, but the rest of them did flat out attack the team. So I thought that was kind of cool. It just showed at least the slight differences in their characters. If she does come back, that's something they could easily touch on. Well, when I escaped, I could have easily, teleported, grabbed somebody, and then, dropped them from the sky or something. But I took off. I'm not the murdering type. Aside from the episode she was in, I can't remember what her story exactly was in that episode, but she took off. She was gone. And maybe she is the murdering type, because that was her plan in the beginning, so I don't know. She could have done it, but maybe she's just not, the big battle type of person, where it's I could get shot here, so, she was gone and everyone else attacked. And the one guy who had, the laser vision, at first I was when they first showed him, I was like, who the heck is this guy? I don't remember him from an episode. And then they had him with the laser vision. I was like, oh, that's the guy who isn't technically a metahuman. And I thought that, like, one thing that was pretty interesting is that he's the guy that does get killed off by Captain Cold. So he's not alive for them to follow that storyline anymore. At least not with that character. They'll probably pick someone who doesn't have one of Superman's powers. But, I thought it was interesting that they killed him off out of all the characters. But it's probably because everyone else has cooler powers, too. So everyone takes off. Nimbus takes off. It was funny seeing him in this episode because that actor also plays Victor Zsasz in Gotham. So it was funny seeing him in this because, excuse me, because I forgot that he played that character. So I was like, oh, it's him who plays. He's in a DC show and a Marvel show, or not a Marvel show, sorry, but he's in 2 DC shows as 2 separate people. So it's kind of funny. It's like he's also in 2 totally different timelines, because Gotham is obviously like in the past of the DC universe. So it's like he plays this character in DC, where he's like early Victor Zsasz, and then in this show he's a metahuman and stuff like that. So it was kind of funny to see that. It was like he's jumping shows and characters, but it is still the same universe. So it was just kind of funny to me. But I definitely loved it. I thought it was really cool. And then the stuff with Iris and Barry, and then Eddie, I thought that was very interesting in this episode because I didn't think Eddie would actually tell her that he saw exactly what would happen in the future. I was thinking, like, when he told us, like, man, like, that's some spoiler alert type stuff. Everybody can't know what's going to happen because they're going to mess up the timeline that way. It's like Barry found out, Barry, Kaylin, and Cisco found out when they found the newspaper. Eddie found out from his distant relative, and now Iris knows. It's like 5 people that flat out know 100% that they're supposed to be together. And it was like, that could kind of screw up the timeline, the fact that they do know. But I think in this case, it's one of those sort of, this is just happening type of things, within the timeline. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it was kind of funny when he told her, because the concept I was thinking was like, he could mess up the future by telling her that and doing it where she forces things to change, because the timeline's very different anyway, because Barry's the Flash much earlier than he was in the initial timeline. But he decided to end things, and he had good reason for it, because it's not like this came out of nowhere. So he did admit, like, you knew, like, Barry knew, Joe knew, and admittedly I knew the whole time too. So he lets it end. So that does, of course, give us the opportunity to get Barry and Iris together if they decide to officially settle that by the next season, which they probably won't settle it, but I'm sure it'll start, in the next season. So I'm not sure what Eddie's sort of role is going to be anymore. He's still going to be Joe's partner, which is probably just going to make things weird for everybody else, where it's like, he knows the future and stuff. So I don't know. Like, it seems it'll be interesting to see what his character actually does and what his important role is as far as season 2, and him just being Joe's partner. Is he just gonna become like nothing as a character, and it's like he's gonna turn into the character that Eobard said, where it's like, you just do nothing really and fade it off, and that's what he's gonna be in the show or something. So I don't know what they're gonna do with him, but it should be interesting. I don't know if he'll do anything special, like if he'll change his destiny or anything like that and become something more important than what he initially was, because that would be interesting to see characters that actually do change the timeline. And they sort of touched on that before with Barry when he temporarily lost his power, and Wells had to figure out, like, how the heck do I get his powers back, because it changed the whole future. And that's what's going to be coming up in the season finale, but I'm definitely going to save that for last. But I did enjoy the episode. I do wish that they didn't kind of do this trailer the way they did it, though, because it was kind of disappointing when you have, like, what we all thought was going to be the big thing. Like, this is going to be the final battle. Even if it wasn't the final battle, I think it could have been a much greater episode, because it honestly, it mostly felt like sort of a filler. It was kind of like the last one a little bit, which I still enjoyed because it was Gorilla Grodd and it was something we hadn't seen. But this one was just like a Rogue's setup sort of episode, and then at the very end, it honestly felt a little shoehorned in. I thought it was going to be like they teased it, and it was actually going to be in the final episode. I thought they would come down and they would be there to help Barry. And then it's like, oh, they do a couple fights, and then it'll cut and go to the next episode. And be like, oh, that's, why they did it that way. Because one of the big things I was thinking was with Oliver there, and we have the Arrow season finale tonight, actually, because I had to watch it late. So we have the Arrow finale tonight. I was thinking that they would reverse the timeline a little bit, but the way they did it was that Oliver, just randomly, he had the time to kind of leave Nanda Parbat. That's how they played it. And it was super quick, but it was just like, I might need a favor. It was like, anytime, anywhere. So that explains why Barry is going to be in the season finale, because Oliver called him up again whenever that happened. So I thought that was pretty cool. They did reference Nanda Parbat, which I thought was sweet because it was something that had been happening, and I was wondering how are they going to reference it in the show. And it was just like, yeah, Oliver's in Nanda Parbat. I don't know what that is, but let's move past it. And I thought that was kind of funny. But it was a cool fight at the end. I definitely enjoyed it. Actually, my favorite part was the Oliver versus Wells, because when Firestorm got hit, it was sort of like the wind blast, and Barry had to take off to catch him because he knew it was going to crash. I was like, if they leave Oliver alone, I'm like, how the heck is he going to fight the Reverse Flash? He has super speed. Like, he fought Barry before, but that was a little bit different. That was like Barry just angry. He wasn't like flat out murder. He fought him, but if he wanted to kill him, he would have just killed him. So I'm like, how the heck is he going to fight the Reverse Flash? And I thought it made so much sense. They did the nanites by Ray, and then that slowed him down temporarily, and so they had like a cool fight. And Wells got his butt kicked because he's not trained, martial arts and stuff. So he got beat up until he phased the nanites out of him. But I thought that was really cool. I was like, that just makes perfect sense. It was a cool way to have it where the guy who can't fly around and shoot fireballs or run at super speed is able to fight. Like, he used science, and he got like another special arrow, and he slowed him down, and they fought. So I thought that was actually really sweet. That was my favorite part because they did it and it worked. It made sense the way they wrote it. So I loved that. The fight scene in general was pretty cool. It was super short, which is fine. Like, I didn't expect that to last a super long time anyway. But I think, like everybody else, I didn't expect it to be like, oh, he finished the accelerator and then he came back in the end, and then they just fought for 5 minutes and it was over. I thought that was going to be like the whole episode was going to be Barry trying to stop him, and then he'd have to kind of call in his partners, call in his friends at the end so that he could officially take him down. And that was the only thing that kind of disappointed me, is the fact that they constantly boosted this episode up like it was going to be this huge fight scene and stuff. And like I said, it only lasted like 5 minutes. If it was even that, I feel like it was shorter than 5. But it was just like, if it wasn't just the end scene, it would have been great. Like, if the episode was Barry trying to stop him, if he kept failing even within the episode, it would have been amazing, I think. Where he gets a little bit better each fight that they have, and then eventually it's like, he's still too powerful to defeat, and he has to call his friends. I think that would have been much more entertaining than, it seems like, oh crap, it's Flash versus Reverse Flash, and then like 98% of the episode is actually about the Rogues and them setting them up for season 2. And then we just end the episode. It's like, here's the fight, and it's the last 5 minutes, and that's it. Because I personally feel like, depending on what they do in the next episode, if this really is the end of how they like defeat Wells and he's knocked out, and they put him up in a prison chamber inside the accelerator, maybe, because it's still activated, so we still don't really know what's happening there. And we don't know if his plan was to start another one, and we found, like the little battery on his wheelchair to give him more speed. So I don't know if his plan, I figured his plan was to do another explosion to basically boost everyone's speed. And that way he would basically just have his speed boost, and he could just jump back into the future like he wants to. But I don't know what's going to happen. If this is the end and it's like, alright, we solved that problem and he's locked up, that would really suck as an ending for his character for this season. So I'm hoping that somehow he does escape or something, but it seems like they just beat him. Like, they finally got him, and he's going to get locked up, and that's going to be it for the Reverse Flash. And I feel like that's a really disappointing ending to everything that's been happening. That would be like a pretty crappy ending to me, where it's like just a little 5-minute fight scene, and it's like, alright, we beat him, and that was it. Like, if it was a surprise, it would have been much cooler. I still would have thought it was a little disappointing that it was only the last like 5 minutes involved the Reverse Flash, and it was literally just a fight, and that was it. But it at least it would have been better to know that the whole episode was going to be about the Rogues compared to what the trailer was. And I know if I looked it up, I would have known that, I'm sure. But I think for most people who don't want to look up the show or get any extra information, it was excessively misleading compared to pretty much any other trailer. Like, they do it where they've done it before where they put episodes together for the trailer, like this is what's happening, and they make it seem like it's all one episode, but it's like the next three. But this was just like, this is it. This is what's happening in this episode. And it's like, that's the last 5 minutes of it, and that was pretty much it. It was just a fight, and they beat him. And if he's gone, it's like, well, that was a bit of a lackluster ending considering this genius intellect character who's been, 1,000 steps ahead of them, as Barry put it, throughout the entire series. So I do hope that he honestly escapes somehow in the next episode. I'm hoping that somehow Barry traveling back in time kind of kickstarts things all over again, and we're getting into the Flashpoint Paradox stuff, which should be amazing to see. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if that's going to be in the middle of the episode, early on in the episode, or at the end of the episode where he goes back to the timeline after saving his mother, and then everything's different, and then that's how we leave off for season 2. But I am really excited for it. I'm excited to see how they do Barry going back in time to save his mother. In the preview, they have it where he's in his house, and she's like, who are you? And he says it's Barry. So I'm excited to see how they play that out, because he can't run into himself. He has to watch out for running into Wells. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I can't wait to see how all that stuff plays out. I did enjoy the episode. I know I kind of complained about the whole last 5-minute thing, but it did kind of annoy me where it was like, this whole episode is about the Rogues. If they just didn't, have the whole trailer be like, this is all it's about, as if it was only about them finally defeating the Reverse Flash, I would have been fine with that, because it was still a good episode. It was just like, they made it seem, obviously, like the whole episode was going to be Barry is finally going to take on the Reverse Flash. And it was just like, well, the particle accelerator starting up, we got to get these people out of here. And then it started up, and that's when he came in at the very end of the episode. And that was it. Like, that was really it. And that was a little bit disappointing that it was just a little 5-minute fight. And, that was it. It was done. Like, they beat him, and he may or may not officially just be locked up or something. But I did enjoy the episode. I did like getting to see Captain Cold come back. Gold Glider officially has her name now from Cisco, and she's like hitting on him, and he's having a very difficult time and stuff, which was really funny, of course. When Caitlin found out that he kissed her and stuff, and she freaked out, he was like, it was under duress, calm down. It was just really funny stuff. So them having like a weird relationship, and him having to be careful and be a good guy and ignore her villainess advances was really funny to me. But I did enjoy the episode. Fight scene was cool at the end. I love the way they took off, because it was kind of funny. It was just like, thanks. And then they both just ran behind their car, and they were just, they're out of here. Which I just thought looked kind of funny. But I did enjoy the fight. I did enjoy the whole episode. I do just wish that they did the trailer differently. Like, instead of acting as if this was going to be the whole episode, like, even if it was half the episode, if it was like the first half was them dealing with the Rogues, and then the second half was Wells, at least it would have been more than literally the last 5 minutes of the episode. Like, here he is, and then they beat him, and he's done. And that's I think why I feel so disappointed by the ending, because it was the Reverse Flash. He's the main villain of the whole season. He tricked them. He, killed Cisco in an alternate timeline. He did a fake plan to get someone else killed, and all this other cool stuff. And then it was just like, they beat him in 5 minutes, and now he's done. That's kind of a disappointing ending for such a great villain. So I'm hoping we get some extra stuff out of him in the season finale. He breaks out or wakes up or something happens. Maybe he uses that battery that he had on his wheelchair. Like, he gets close enough to it, or he just flat out touches it, and it boosts his power like really quick, and he kind of regenerates, or not regenerates exactly, but kind of gets a boost in energy, and then they have to kind of deal with him again. But we'll just have to wait and see for the season finale. I of course want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Um, as much as I would normally ask something about the episode, I think my biggest question is, what do you guys feel about the fight being like the last 5 minutes of the episode, and seemingly being defeated in sort of a lackluster way? Like, it was a great fight, and I think it was great, but I think what a lot of us love about his character is the fact that he is so dangerous intellectually. That's what made him such a cool character, and technically he still had that because of the particle accelerator starting up and this and that, so I'm sure he will explain that to them somehow in the next episode. But it was kind of just like a plot device leading to the rogues for me, where it's like, oh, this is Wells' idea and concept, but ultimately it's just an excuse for us to have the rogues in the episode, and he's not even in it until the last couple minutes. So I want to know your thoughts on that, like them sort of having the trailer seem as if, like, we all knew the big fight where it's like all three of them was going to be the end of the episode, but if you're like me, I definitely thought that meant the episode was going to focus on Wells and Barry and the team dealing with him, and then the fight would happen at the very end, and not just nothing, and then he comes back at the end. Like, they had him chase him down in the beginning of the episode, and he took off, which is a cool scene as well, where he Barry almost had him, and then he kind of went into overdrive and he took off, and Barry couldn't catch him. That was a really cool scene, actually. But I want to know your thoughts on them kind of doing the fight at the end. I'm sure he will be in the next episode, and there's going to be something there where they still need him to take out the accelerator, so they're probably still going to have some stuff with him, but seemingly he is just kind of defeated, and it's like they're going to do something where obviously he's going to be like, well, if you let me out, then I'll stop it, and that's obviously not going to happen. But for now, it's just like he got defeated, and it was just like, last 5 minutes, here's just a fight, and that's it, which some people may have enjoyed, but like I said, for me, it was the fact that they kind of made it seem like the entire episode was going to be this huge focus on the Flash versus the Reverse Flash, and I feel like we just didn't really have that, so it kind of disappointed me a little bit, because it was still a really great episode, and it's still an awesome fight scene. But I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.